Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Devotee. I'm going to lead discussion on Bhagavatam today. Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jaya mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, and to Narayan, which is the supremest human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, goddess of learning, and unto the author, Srila Vyasadeva. Hare Krishna, we are reading from the third canto, entitled The Status Quo. We are on part 1. And we are reading from a chapter called Vidura Approach Maitreya, which is chapter 4, Canto 3, chapter 4. And we are on text 16 now. And I don't know what I did with the glasses here. We can repeat one Sanskrit word at the time to practice them. Karmani, Ani Asya, Bhava, Abhavasya, Te, Durga Ashraya, Ata, Aribayat, Palayanam, Kala Atmana, Yat, Pamada Ayuta, Ashrama, Swatman, Rate, Idiati, Di, Vidam, Ia, Kamanyani Asya Bhavo Bhavasyate. Durga Shrayotari Bayat Palayanam. Kalatmanoya Pramada Yutashrama. Swatman Rateki Diati Dir Vidamiha. Karmanyani Hasya Bhava Bhavashyate. Durga Shrayotari Bayat Palayanam. Kalat Manoya Pramada Yutashrama. Swatman Rateki Diati Dir Vidamiha. Kamanyani Asya Bhavo Bhavashyate. Durga Shrayotari Bayat Palayanam. Kalat manoya pramada yutashrama. Swatma mateki diati dir vidam iha. Kamani bhava syate. Durga Shvayotari Bayat Palayanam. Kala Panat Yudashrama. Swatman Rateki Dyati Dir Vidam Iha.
Karmanyani asya bhavo bhavasyate.
Karmanyani asya bhavo bhavasyate. Durga Shvayotari Bayat Palayanam.
Atmanoyat pramada yudashrama.
Kalatmanoya Pamada Yudashrama. Swatma Rateki Vyati Dir Vidam Iyam. Someone online? Oh.
Karmanyani hasya bhavo bhavasyate.
Karmanyani hasya bhavo bhavasyate.
Durga Shvayotari Bayat Palayanam.
Durga Shvayotari Bayat Palayanam.
Kalatmanoyat Pramada Yudashrama.
Kalatmanoya Pramada Yudashrama.
Svatman Rateki Dyati Vidam Iha.
Swatman Rateki Dyati Dir Vidam Iha. Anyone else? Okay, so we can go in a translation, one word at a time in Sanskrit and then in English. Karmani, activities. Ani asya, one who has no desire. Bhava, birth. Abhavasya, of one who is never born. Te, your. Duga Ashraya, taking shelter of the fort. Ata, thereafter. Aribayat, out of fear of the enemies. Palayanam, flee. Kala Atmana, of he who is the controller of eternal time. Yat, that. Amada Ayuta. In the association of women. Ashrama. Household life. Swa Atman. In your own self. Rate. One who enjoys. Kidyati. Is disturbed. The intelligence. Vidam. Of the learned. Iha. In this world. Translation. My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work. Also, you are free from all desires. That you take birth, also, you are unborn, and that you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort. Also, you are the controller of invincible time, and that you enjoy household life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Pure devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regard to transcendental knowledge of the Lord. Now, it is possible to acquire complete knowledge of the Lord. Whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient for them, because devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastime of the Lord. This gives them all transcendental bliss. But some of the pastime of the Lord appear contradictory, even to such a pure devotee, and thus Uddhava asks the Lord about some of the contradictory incidents in his pastimes. The Lord is described as having nothing to do personally, and it is actually so, because even in the creation and sustenance of the material world, the Lord has nothing to do. It seemed contradictory then to hear that the Lord personally lifts the golden hill for the protection of his unalloyed devotees. The Lord is a supreme Brahman and absolute truth, the personality of Godhead appearing like a man, but Uddhava has doubts whether he could have so many transcendental activities. This is no difference. There is no difference between the personality of Godhead and the impersonal Brahman. How then can the Lord have so many things to do, whereas the impersonal Brahman is stated to have nothing to do either materially or spiritually? If the Lord is ever unborn, how then is he born as a son of Vasudeva and Devaki? He is fearful even to Kala, the supreme fear, yet the Lord is afraid of fighting Jarasandha and takes shelter in a fort. How can one who is full of in himself take pleasure in the association of many women? How can he take wives and, just like an householder, take pleasure in the association of family members, children, relatives, and parents? All these apparently contradictory happenings bewilder even the greatest learned scholars, who, thus bewildered, cannot understand whether inactivity is a fact or whether his activity are only imitations. The solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental. This cannot be understood by the mundane speculators. For the mundane speculators, there is certainly a kind of bewilderment, but for the transcendental devotee, there is nothing astonishing in this. The Brahman conception of the absolute truth is certainly the negation of all mundane activities, but the para-Brahman conception is full with transcendental activities. One who knows the distinction between the conception of Brahman and the conception of the Supreme Brahman is certainly the real transcendentalist. There is no bewilderment for such a transcendentalist. The Lord himself also declared in Bhagavad Gita 10:2, even the great sage and demigod can know hardly anything about me, my activities and transcendental potencies. The right exposition of the Lord's activities given by Grandfather Bhishmadev, Bhagavatam 1.9.16, as follows: Nayasya karichitrajam Puman Veda Vidisitam Yad Vijikyasya Saya Yukta Muyanti Kavayopi. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanachala Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shigu Shiyutapada Kamalam Shigum Vaishnavam Cha Shirupam Sakajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Chijivam Sadvaitam Savaduta Parijana Saita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vamsha Kalpa Tarubhya Chakri Pasindhu Vyai Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvesesha Shunyavadi Pasyachade Jatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Grim Yat Kripatamam Vande Shigo De Jatarine. So, Uddhava is speaking. Uddhava is speaking to, he's speaking to the Lord. It's really like, it's a conversation between Vidura and Uddhava. And Uddhava is remembering his conversation with Krishna. And he's remembering the question he asked to Krishna. And the question he asked to Krishna, that's my page. Sorry. The question that Uddhava said, my Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work. Also, you are free from all desires. That that you take birth, also you are unborn. That you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in the fort. Also, you are the controller of invisible time. And that you enjoy household life, surrounded by many women also, you enjoy in yourself. Right, Krishna. So I'm not sure where I will go. I have a lot of books here. I'm not sure. I always prepare a lot and deliver a little. So we'll see where we go. And it's one point I thought it was interesting is that Uddhava, in his pastime with Krishna, he is the advisor of Krishna. So that also is confusing because Krishna knows everything and is the source of everything. Aham sarvasya bhavavu mata sarva pravartate is the source of the material world, is the source of the spiritual world. So he knows everything as such. And still, when Uddhava was in Dwarka with Krishna, he was his counselor. And when Krishna had a question about what to do, because Uddhava is very intelligent, he was a disciple of Brihaspati, he will go to Uddhava and ask him. So, like in itself, that's confusing, bewildering. That's not what Uddhava is speaking about. But that's one thing. How can the Lord, who is the source of everything, ask for advice? And then Uddhava is specifically speak about different pastime of the Lord. The pastime of birth. The Lord is unborn. There is no, to the Lord, there is no beginning, no end. There is no time. It's not like the Lord Krishna took birth at a certain time and then at one point he dies because he's eternal. Everything in the spiritual world is eternal. And how can we understand that he took birth? And in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Janma karma chame devyam evam yo vetitatvatam yadvakdeam punam janma mamiti naiti so Arjuna. So the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, he said that the one, if we do understand the transcendental appearance and disappearance and pastime activities of the Lord, if we do understand the transcendental nature, and it's very clear what the Lord said. He said, if you understand the transcendental nature of my appearance and disappearance and activities, then you will never take birth again in this material world. As soon as we get the transcendental nature of the Lord, we don't need to take birth again in this material world. So here Uddhava is kind of pointing out to that, like, okay, how are we to understand your transcendental pastime? How are we to understand, like, yeah, the Lord is when he's in Dwarka, he acts like a householder. He gets up in the morning and he meditates. He meditates on himself. And then he leaves his wife to go to do his job. He goes to the assembly house to direct, to be part of the decision making around Dwarka. So he looks like fruitive work. He looks like he's getting something out of it. He must be, because, and at the same time, he has no work to perform. Even the material, like the cosmic manifestation, he doesn't do anything with it. He doesn't engage with it. He expands himself. It's like government, the president of the United States. Well, I don't know if he even knows about Alachua. Maybe he doesn't even know that Alachua exists. Like Biden, that's his name now. It's hard to follow. And so he doesn't even know that Alachua exists. And Alachua functions very well. Like every day we can open the tap, water is flowing, there is electricity, and there is roads, and people following the rule of the road because there is policemen. There's so many things happening in Alachua. And Biden have no idea what's happening. Still, in a sense, he is a controller of what's happening in Alachua. I don't really know, about politics. So that's not what I'm speaking about. But so in the same way, the Lord is the source of everything, but he's kind of removed, he's aloof from the cosmic manifestation. And still, when he manifests his pastime, transcendental pastime, he acts as if his actions are important. Like we tend to do, like to think like what I do is important, and what's the result I'm going to get from my action is so important too, and primal importance. And then Uddhava also, he said, you're free of desire. So the only reason we do fruitive activities because we desire something. We desire money, we desire fame, we desire recognition, we desire comfort, something. And the Lord is desireless. He doesn't desire anything because everything is him. How can he desire anything if everything is him? And then he said, you take birth, also you are unborn. And that's really difficult for many people, like the conception of God being away from us, like completely separated, nothing to do with the material energy. And then the Brahman is like the white light. And the conception that the Lord is everything we are not. Like that, like okay, there is a material life and material suffering and material entanglement and duality, and then the Lord is non-dual, Advaita. Is non-dual. Though that's most people understand, or most spiritualists get there, that there is duality here, and the Brahman, the Lord, or the conception of what is supreme is that non-dual substance. And you say, Vadanti Tadva Vidas, Gyanatva Yaj, Advayam, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyati. The transcendentalists who really know, those who really know the nature of that non-dual substance, they know that non-dual substance is Brahman. It is Brahman. It's not Brahman. And it's also Paramatma, and it's also Bhagavan, that the Lord have three aspects. And to come to the first level, to accept that the Lord is non-dual, that's a realization. However, it lacks substance. There, in Brahman, there is liberation, but then there is no varieties. It's kind of bright light. It doesn't sound so attractive, at least to me. It doesn't sound so attractive. Almost the material life with all this variety and suffering is almost more attractive than kind of merging in oneness or nothingness. So that conception, then yes, the Lord is unborn. However, the conception of Paramatma is the Lord is a person. We're starting to come. It's an expansion. Paramatma is not the complete realization of the Lord. It's a localized aspect. It's the Lord in the heart. The Lord in the heart that's constantly a companion, a friend. Suridam, Sarva Bhutanam, Suridam is a friend of all living entity, Sarva Bhutanam, all living entity. So that's already a more personal aspect. And then further than that is the Lord enjoying away from the material duality, away from us conditioned soul, with only liberated soul, and in a lot of exchange of love that are very, very fulfilling for the Lord. So of course he doesn't have any desire, and of course his Atmarama is self-satisfied, but his transcendental his transcendental pastime are part of him being self-satisfied. That's what we need to understand, that him being self-satisfied means that he enjoy how? By expanding himself. And we are part and parcel of the Lord, and he's self-satisfied. And when we surrender to that knowledge that we are made for his satisfaction, that is how he's self-satisfied, by expanding himself in his part and parcel of a different Vishnu expansion, then we participate. We participate with him. We get engaged in his pastimes. And then, interestingly, in a purport, Srila Prabhupada make a big distinction between knowledge and hearing. And I really like what Srila Prabhupada says. So he said, whatever little knowledge the devotee of the Lord, whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient. So we don't need to be big scholars to be devotees of the Lord. We don't need to have all the knowledge. However, Srinvata Swakatri Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Nidantasto Yabhadrani Vidunoti Sautsatam. However, the devotee, he develop an urge and a taste for hearing the pastime of the Lord. Because why? Because they're transcendental nature. And so when we hear the pastime of the Lord, we plug into the transcendental nature. And through doing that, well, many things happen. One thing is that we become self-satisfied, because the Lord is self-satisfied. We are part and parcel. We also become self-satisfied. And when we hear about those transcendental pastimes while in a conditional state, then we get purified, because the consumption of the transcendental spiritual nature, it said in the Bhagavad Gita, the consumption is absolute. So as soon as we get in contact with anything transcendental, like the name of the Lord is completely non-different from the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So as soon as we touch into anything transcendental, we have an opportunity to enter transcendence. And when the Lord so mercifully come on earth to enact his pastimes from the spiritual world, it says that his pastimes on earth are like a replica of his life, beyond the material existence. And when we absorb ourselves there, then we absorb ourselves in relationship with the Lord. And we have an opportunity to experience that loving relationship. We have an opportunity to just purify ourselves. But purification is kind of still aiming at Brahman in a sense. And we can even jump out of that, of like my purification, to just participate. Just participate in a pastime of the Lord. On Friday, we have a Krishna book reading at 2:30 for like women. We read Krishna book. And we endeavor to really dive into it, to experience those descriptions. Sometimes there is beautiful description of the flowers, of the trees, of the sand around, of all the sound in the pastime of Krishna, of the exchange of love and the playfulness. And when we absorb in that and we really allow ourselves to experience that, to be with the Lord in his enjoyment, then we get to also enjoy. We get to be the secondary enjoyer, like when we water the root of the tree, all the branches get value, get nourished. So when the watering process is a healing process, Shravanam, the healing process is the watering of the root of the tree for all the leaves, all the part and parcel to be completely nourished. So out of his great mercy, the Lord manifests himself, and also out of his pleasure, because in the spiritual world, there is not much fighting going on. Everything is very harmonious and beautiful and enjoyable. And the Lord, he has all varieties of desire. And some desire he has is to fight. And he does wrestle with his coward boy friend, but he also like a good fight with the good demons. So he likes to come to the material world. In a material world, the material cosmic manifestation, the Lord's pastime are also eternal. So the Lord constantly enjoy his pastime of killing demons in the material world. It's going on all the time. So let's go back to the thing. I can get carried away so easily, and so time I am. Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, time I am the destroyer of all things. So it's scary. Time is scary. What creates our fear, anxiety in this prison house, Durga, material energy is called, material world is prison house. It's time, isn't it? It's crushing everything constantly. It's the sense of past, present, and future. That's a source of our anxiety, because there is thing I need to do in the future. There is thing I regret from the past. There is things that's happening in the present. And of course, in the spiritual world, time is conspicuous by its absence. There is no timeline there. So time crushed everything. And Uddhava said to the Lord, you flee out of the battlefield. He was fighting with Jarasandha, and he fought 21 times with Jarasandha, and he defeated him every time. But the last time, there was something else happening. There was a few things. There was Rukmini, and then there was Kalayavana attacking Krishna also at the same time. Anyway, there was a few things. So Krishna is called the Ranchor. Ranchor means a coward. He became a real coward. He acted like a coward. He flee away from the battlefield. So Jarasandha, like, he was so thinking he was so powerful. And Krishna and Balaram, they left the battlefield and they escaped. They escaped the battlefield, and they were hiding on a they jumped in a mountain, and then the mountain became in fire, and they jumped out. And so Jarasandha was feeling victorious, very victorious. And then Krishna went to hide in a fort, went to hide in a fort of Dwarka. And all that, like, it's the pastime of the Lord. I remember when I was a new devotee, I was a very brand new devotee in Montreal, Canada. And my temple president, anyway, there was nobody in that temple. So my temple president was signing me with, I don't remember the name of this devotee, a male devotee who was, who became a devotee when Srila Prabhupada was on the planet. And he was telling me about pastime of Krishna, one after another. He will tell me, okay, Krishna was fighting Jarasandha, and when he was fighting Jarasandha, at one point, Yavana came also to attack him, and Rukmini was sending me a letter. And so Krishna left the battlefield, he ran with Krishna Balaram, and they went to Dwarka. And I was like, this is all so weird, and I don't know any of those names, and I don't know who is that. But in retrospective, like when I think of those times, and I didn't realize that right away, it took me years to understand what that devotee was doing. What he was doing, he was constantly speaking about Krishna and Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan and Krishna's pastime in Dwarka and Mathura, because he had a full faith, completely understanding that Krishna's pastime are transcendental. And if someone hears them, even if he hears them without faith, even if he hears them without knowledge, even if he hears them without any sense of who Krishna is, who's Balaram, who's Jarasandha, is completely purified, is extremely purified for the art. So that's what he was doing, constantly saying story. And yeah, from my perspective, I was like, it's strange. It's really strange. I have no idea what he's speaking about. And still, in retrospective, I'm so grateful for that devotee. My son is that because of his service that he rendered to me at that time, my heart was purified enough that I was able to keep on going with Krishna consciousness, and I'm still here today. So that's the story of the rancher, and then that story about Krishna enjoying with women. When he's a cowherd boy, he enjoys with the gopis. And then when he becomes a householder, he has 16,108 wives. That sounds so like outrageous. In reality, if we go deeper into the pastime about his wife, it's like all of them, he serves them. Most of them, not all of them, but 16,100 of them. 16,100 of them, they will have been left outcast of the society if it wasn't for Krishna showing that he didn't adhere to those rules and regulation of society, social norm, that he saved all those women from being outcast, from being rejected from society, by marrying them and make them queen and give them all a palace. And Krishna is so amazing that he could be in each and every one of his 16,108 palaces, enjoying with his queens and giving himself fully to each of them in a different way, being the same person and relating to each of his queens according to the desire of that queen. Maybe some queen, they wanted to serve him or have dinner, and some queens, they just wanted to have sweet words. Some queens, they wanted to fight. They like a good fight with their husband, like Satyabhama. She likes, she's feisty, and then she likes that. And then, Rukmini, she's so submissive, and then Krishna enjoyed teasing her. And so with every one of his queens, he has different rasa, different interaction. Even so is one. In Dwarkadish, the king of Dwarka is one person. He's not dividing in different persons. He's dividing as one person who has the capacity to interact with each of his devotees according to the desire of the devotees. According to the desire of the devotees, the Lord expands himself and fulfill our complete desire to have a specific interaction and a specific relationship with him. And so where else I want to go? I completely lost track of my thread. So Krishna seemed very contradictory. And I just want to read a few verses from Kunti because our teaching is so beautiful. And she says something similar. And those verses are impactful, I believe. So Queen Kunti, she is a queen. She's an aunt of Krishna. She's a mother of the Pandava, whose most famous Pandava is Arjuna, who is a recipient of Krishna's teaching on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So Queen Kunti and her children, they went through so much. And she's the one who prayed, like, please make all those calamities come again and again, because when those calamity comes, when we go to an intense time in life, that's when we remember Krishna. That's when we get so close to Krishna, so intimately trusting of him, and so much in his presence that he's here for us. And, like, there is no atheist in a folks hall, meaning when people go through trauma, even atheists, people who don't think of God, they will have a tendency to turn to God. Not everyone, but it's usually something that comes deeply from the soul of our soul, that even without knowing, all of a sudden we start praying. People start praying. People who never prayed before in the middle of a catastrophic event. So that's happened a lot. Queen Kunti and her children, they had a lot of catastrophic events. And then this is taking place where there was the last catastrophic event, which was Ashvatam trying to kill the embryon, the last descendant of the Pandava within the womb of Uttara. And Ashvatam was very angry. He wanted to destroy them. So he sent a nuclear weapon to kill the baby in Uttara's womb. And then Uttara, she ran to Krishna, please save me, but she, she said, oh, you are the supreme personality of God, that everything comes from you. You have all power, you have all capacity, you're the source of everything. Please save the embryo in my womb, because this embryo is the last descendant of the Kurus. And then Krishna did. He enters the womb of Uttara, he saves the baby, saves the mother. And then now he's leaving. He's leaving to go back to Dwarka after spending many months with her. And then at that time when she leaves, that's when she starts her prayer. And part of the prayer is what we are going to read here. And we can absorb ourselves in our mood. She said, oh Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastime. Again, we are not going to understand, but we can hear about them. And by hearing, we are getting purified, which appear to be human and are so misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. And then I will read 2 or 3 of those. Of course, it is bewildering. Again, Uddhava says it's confusing, bewildering. Queen Kunti says the same. O soul of the universe, that you work though you are inactive, and that you take birth though you are a vital force and unborn. You yourself descend among animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering. So the same idea as Uddhava, like the Lord does so many things. And it's confusing even more so if we allow that impersonal part of us to control our intellect. My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflowed with tears, which was the mascara from your eyes. And you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. So Krishna's pastime turned to be bewildering. And by understanding the transcendental nature, how the Lord is allowing himself to have pastime to protect his devotee, to protect his devotees and to kill the demons of impersonalism inside our heart. And in the Bhagavad Gita, I say, Yada yada idam asya, Planyo Bhavati, Bhavata, Abhujanam, that I appear millennium after millennium to protect the devotee and kill the miscreant. So the devotee and the miscreant is all inside of us. It's like we are all devotees and we are all miscreants. And the Lord appear to destroy that, to destroy the miscreants, the resistance to accept love, the resistance to accept shelter, the resistance to accept that the Lord has my back every moment of the day and the night. He never leaves me. He's always with me. And he appears to give us his pastime, transcendental pastime, for us to recite and remember them. And the Lord is in a Brahma Samhita. Lord Brahma describes the Lord. Let's see, I'm going to get the time. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord is described by Lord Brahma. I'm going to read a few verses. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Ananta Rupam. Adyam Purana Purusha, Navayovanam Cha. Vedeshu Dulabam, Adulabam, Atma, Bhaktau, Ahatma Bhakto, Govindam Adipurusham, Tamaham Bhajamin. So that's Lord Brahma, after being revealed everything through the flute of Krishna. So Krishna has a flute, he must be a person with two arms. So after being revealed the truth of his transcendental nature and pastimes, Lord Brahma offered all those pastimes, all those prayers, and he said Advaitam, non-dual. So the Lord is all dual. Advaitam, Achyutam is unfallible. So the Lord is non-dual, unfallible. Ananta Rupam, Ananta means unlimited, and you have unlimited form, unlimited. Adyam is at the beginning of everything. Adyam Purana Purusha. Purana means oldest. So it's at the beginning and is the oldest. Purana Purusham. Purusham is a person, Purusham. So Purana, the oldest. And Nava Yovanam Cha, always in a blooming youth. The oldest and the blooming youth. And he said, Vedeshu Durlabha. And that's very, very difficult. Durlabha means difficult, hard, Durlabha. Very difficult, Vedeshu, to understand through the study of the Veda. Through the study of the Veda, Vedeshu Durlabha, we are not going to understand Krishna or come close to Krishna, because Krishna revealed himself. And he said, Adurlabham, Atma Bhaktau. Adurlabham Atma. So only Adurlabham. It's not very difficult. Adurlabham is not difficult. Atma, for Atma, who have devotion. For the Atma, for the self who have devotion. Atma Bhakto, for the self who have devotion. Adurlabham is not very difficult. And then you say Govindam Adipurusham. I worship Govinda, to our form with the flute. And the primeval Lord. I like to read another verse, because that verse really, it's very well quoted. Atash Krishna Namani Nabavet Griyam Indriya Sevamukhe Ijiva Do Swayam Eva Swaratada. Because Krishna's form, quality, pastime, etc. are all on the absolute platform, material senses cannot therefore appreciate them. I read again. Because Krishna's form, qualities, pastime, etc. are all on the absolute platform, material senses cannot therefore appreciate them. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and render service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy names and taste the remnants of the Lord's food. The tongue is purified, and one gradually come to understand who Krishna really is. And then there is another verse from the Mukunda Upanishad that says the Supreme Lord is not attained by expert explanation, by vast intelligence, nor even by much hearing. So that's interesting. He is attained only by one who he himself chooses. To judge a person, he manifests his own form. So we need to hear, for sure. Hearing is we are getting purified, our heart is purified, Shrivatam Swagata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana. So by hearing, we purified our heart. Krishna cleans our heart from all the unwanted things in our heart. By hearing, we get to enjoy with the Lord if we choose to, and we plug into the transcendental energy. And even that hearing is not complete. What we need? Krishna to reveal himself. It's not something, it's like to come to Krishna, we need to understand that we are helpless and surrender to the Lord. Please accept me. Please accept me. Please accept me. Like the chanting of the Hare Krishna is that, please accept me in your service. Please allow me to be with you. That's what it is, because he is attained only by one who he himself chooses. To judge a person, he manifests his own form. Hare Krishna, thank you for listening. I'm going to read the verse and again. I had more to share, but we are stopping here. Karmanya I asya bhavasyate. Is that the word? Yoga sayotari bayat palayanam kalatmanu yat pamada yutashrama swatman hate kindyati dir vidam iha. My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work. Also, you are free from all desires. That you take birth, also you are unborn. That you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in the fort, also you are the controller of invisible time. And that you enjoy household life, surrounded by many women, also you enjoy in your own self, in yourself. Hare Krishna, thank you for listening and churning the nectar of the Bhagavatam. Any comment, question, realization, sharing? Yes.
I was just thinking how if the soul on its journey can be open to that the absolute truth is a person, like if you can be open to that, just be open, like, okay, God may have personality, which means preferences and pastimes and relationships, and like if you can at least be open to like it's possible. I mean, and there's a little evidence that we have personhood, you know, then it's possible that the supreme absolute truth takes on personhood, and in fact it makes sense. Then from there, how can you say you know what the supreme person does? Or like I'm just thinking, like, if you can at least, if the soul can at least be open to that, the personhood of this supreme, then how can you, like, I'm just thinking, I really liked how the purport began. I've read it a few times. Pure devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regards to the transcendental knowledge of the Lord. Basically, then later, devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastimes.
Yes.
So I'm just thinking like, yeah, like, I don't care if there's a contradiction, like, who am I to say that? And I'm not trying to prove it that I'm a devotee or anything. Like, I'm just thinking like, if the Supreme Lord who created everything has personhood, then why am I going to be bothered by contradictions? Because it just like, I there's no way I can box this Supreme in, and I should try to. It's just like whatever. Like any of this stuff, I'm just like, like I don't really get hung up on how weird it is. In fact, I think I like that it's weird. You know? Like, yeah, I would like it to be interesting and unique and far out, and like that's exciting. So I just thought I'd share.
Thank you for your comments. It's expanding on the class very much. Thank you. Janmaya Yataha. Whatever exists in the source, whatever exists on effect must be in existence in the source. So we have personality, we have like and dislike, we have abilities, we have so many things. To imagine that the source of us doesn't have variety, doesn't have a personality, then like it's far-fetched. And it seems that at least theoretically it should be easier to accept that, oh, I have a personality, and Damayanti have a personality, and Kristen has a personality. That must be that the source of those personality is also have a personality and a person. And then, in the same way, in the same way that I'm not going to get knowledge of you. Like no matter what I'm doing, I can have some knowledge of you, of another human being. I can get some knowledge, but that knowledge is very limited. And when we enter in a relationship with someone, we think we know, but often we don't. So what to speak of the Supreme Person? How can we even try to fathom what's the Supreme Person who is the cause of everything, who manifests, who's everything around us is energy and expansion? How can we be so puffed up, so proud of ourselves that we know? And that's the story of the Brahman and the cobbler. Maybe many of you know that story, and I'm going to tell it for those of you who don't know the story of the Brahman and the cobbler. So Narada Muni is like a spaceman. He's a spaceman. He's like he was giving the benediction that he can move everywhere in the material world and the spiritual world. He's a complete liberated devotee. But he acts often as a guru. He really is a guru of so many, and is a guide for so many demons and devotees alike. And so Narada Muni, once he was going to Vaikuntha to see Lord Narayan. And Lord Narayan is one of the first expansion of Krishna. So Narada Muni was going to Vaikuntha to see Lord Narayan, and on his way there, he met a Brahman. Brahman. So Brahman is those who consider themselves Brahman. They are scholars of the Veda. They know all the rule and regulation. They follow all the rule and regulation, and they spend their time discussing knowledge of the absolute, studying, scrutinizing all the Vedas to understand the knowledge of the absolute. That's what Brahman is, and teaching. And so he met, Narada Muni passed by, and Brahman said, "Oh, where are you going?" "I'm going to Vaikuntha to see Lord Narayan." "Oh, how wonderful, you're going to Vaikuntha. Please ask me how many lifetimes it will take for me to go back to Godhead." Like that. So Narada Muni said, "Okay, I'm going to do that." And then Narada Muni continued on his way to Vaikuntha, and he met a cobbler. And cobbler in a Vedic, society, they are the lowest of the lowest of the lowest, because they deal with skin of cows, skin of animals, dead animals, carcasses. They deal with kind of things that are really unclean. So cobblers are kind of considered the lowest of the lowest in a pecking order of society. And so Narada Muni meet the cobbler, and the cobbler, like that, he say, "Hey, how are you?" And then he says, and said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm going to Vaikuntha to see Lord Narayan." The cobbler said, "Oh, how wonderful! How fortunate you are! How great is our Lord! How great is a devotee!" And then he said, "Wow, it's so wonderful you're going there." And that's all. And said, and then he asked, "Please ask the Lord. I know I'm very fallen and it will take thousands of lives, but still ask the Lord if one day I will get to see him. Like, maybe we'll see him." And so Narada Muni arrived in Vaikuntha and he offered prayers, because as soon as he sees the Lord, he offered great praise of the Lord and wonderful prayer to glorify the Lord of Vaikuntha. And then at one point he said, when I was coming here, I met a Brahman and a cobbler, and they asked me, so I should ask you, when are they going to come back and see you? And the Lord of Vaikuntha said, "Tell the Brahman that it will take him thousands and thousands of lifetimes. And tell the cobbler that he's on his way back home. He's going to come at the end of his life." Now I was like, what? The Brahman follow all the rules, he's clean and he's vegetarian and he knows all the Vedas and he spent his time studying. And he said, like, I don't get it. And the cobbler is dealing with dirty things, how come is that? And so Narada Muni inquired, and he said, "Okay, so, like when they inquired like that, I want you to tell them that they will ask you, what I was doing in Vaikuntha. They will ask you like, okay, they want to prove like, okay, that you were in Vaikuntha. They will ask you, what were you doing in Vaikuntha? And tell them that the Lord Narayan was trading an elephant in the eye of a needle. He was trading an elephant in the eye of the needle." I'm going to say, "Okay, I'm going." and then he went down, and then he met the Brahman. And he said, "Oh, I'm coming back from Vaikuntha." And the Brahman, "Oh, how wonderful. What and what did the Lord say about me?" I lost track.
So then the Brahman said, "Oh, you were in Vaikuntha. What was Lord Narayan doing?"
Oh yeah, what was yeah, that's a trend. So the Brahman said, "What was Lord Narayan doing when you were in Vaikuntha?" And then Narada Muni said, "Lord Narayan was treading an elephant in the eye of a needle." Nonsense. That doesn't make any sense. You never went to Vaikuntha. And if that's nonsense, and if you went, so what did he say about me going back to Godhead? He said it will take thousands and thousands of lifetimes. And then Narada Muni went to the cobbler, and the cobbler asked, "Oh wow, wonderful! Like I get to see you again, Narada Muni. You're a pure devotee. How fortunate I am! How wonderful it is that I'm in contact with the devotee of the Lord, the pure devotee of the Lord." And then he asked, "What was my Lord doing?" And he said, "Your Lord was treading an elephant in the eye of a needle." And the cobbler said, "How wonderful and wonderful is my Lord. How amazing is my Lord. How I will love to remember that vision of my Lord Narayan treading an elephant in the eye of a needle." And then Narada Muni understood why the Brahman will take thousands of years. And then he told the cobbler, "You're done. You're going back to Godhead." Hare Krishna. It was a long comment to your comments. Kelly, you have your hands up, or maybe Amanda, one of you.
Sorry, my phone wasn't working. Two things. First, I speak for myself, but I think Amanda too. We enjoy your story most, and you get the most absorbed when you play the cobbler and you get to glorify the Lord and love the Lord, and it's so sweet to watch. And two, I think this is the first verse in this Srimad Bhagavatam where I feel not confused and not like, who is that and what's happening? And I don't understand. It seems to me to make so much sense in my mundane covered mind of an earthling, that of course Krishna would want to come play with us. Like if he has nothing else to do, why wouldn't he come to earth and play with us and like kill demons and steal honey and, you know, get chased by his mom and all the things? Like, why not? It's like having children. And if you just stand there while the children play, like that's not fun. But if you go and you play with them and you pretend to know, you know, to be not, you know, the parent and pretend to be something else and let the kids pretend. I don't know. It just makes so much sense that Krishna would want to come here and pretend with us.
Yeah. So for you, you read that, and usually the Bhagavatam doesn't make any sense, but somehow, like Uddhava is bewildered by something, Kelly is not bewildered. So yeah, of course, Krishna is going to come and play with his pure devotees. He doesn't, you know, he plays with his pure devotees. And he has pastime with his pure devotees, and those pastimes are a replica of what he's doing in the spiritual world. So the spiritual world is fully enjoying. However, in the spiritual world, he enjoys pastimes, and in the spiritual world, there is a lot of playfulness. However, when you have a relationship with like anger and other emotion, he comes here to totally to kill the demons and fight with the demons and have people who are inimical to him. He loves that because in a spiritual world, there is no enmity towards the Lord. Everybody is completely surrendered to the Lord and in love with the Lord. And so he likes to come to a place where there is enmity, including us. You know, we have enmity towards the Lord. And fight with the demons. So it makes sense to you. It makes sense to you that the Lord wants that, and that the Lord enjoys pastime. He's a supreme enjoyer. So definitely he enjoys in his spiritual sky in Goloka Vrindavan. He enjoys with his most intimate, most sincere, most loyal devotees in the spiritual world, the eternally liberated souls. And then when he comes to enact his pastime on earth as Krishna, he brings his eternal associates to show us how he plays, to show us here is what's happened when you're liberated. You get to play with me non-stop. You get to be in nature. You get to eat foods. You get to decorate yourself with nature. You get to dance with me. You get to you get to do all those things, and I'm showing them to you. I'm meeting you where you are at with my pastime. It's bringing a spiritual realm of his enjoyable, playful pastime. Is bringing them as a replica, facsimile replica of the spiritual world on earth for us to kind of witness them, and by witnessing them and speaking about them and remember them and sharing about them, then we get to more and more making step towards entering those pastimes. Thank you for your comment, Kelly. Yes. Gajendra, Prabhu, I see that you have your hand raised.
Hare Krishna, good morning. Mother Malini, devotees. I want to say real quickly, I appreciated Kelly's thoughts very much as well. As I was listening to this morning, around the time you were mentioning, like, about Krishna, I think in relation to like Jarasandha and Kavan, it's like, okay, well, Krishna is God, he knows everything. And yet And so that kind of just launched me into thinking about Maya, Yoga Maya, and Maha Maya. And while listening, I shot over and searched a little bit and was looking at Bonnie quotes and different things. So yeah, that it became real interest. How do we have, Lord Krishna contemplating, the cowherd boys with the pastime of Brahma. So there's this kind of idea that, well, the Supreme Personality of Godhead kind of doesn't know something. And it's very common when we think of Yoga Maya. I was just looking at Bonnie Quotes, and Prabhupada says, well, there's Yoga Maya, and Maha Maya is an expansion of Yoga Maya. And they're coming from Krishna's internal potency to support his transcendental pastimes and pleasure, and that of all the devotees. So yeah, it just became a really interesting. I just became really interested in this, looking at Yoga Maya and just the incredible importance of this internal potency of Krishna for the beauty of all these pastimes that we experience. And without, sometimes Maya is referred to as an illusion, without that potency supporting these pastimes, the ability of the Lord to kind of be unaware of the source, we wouldn't have so much. But it is, a lot of it is often talked about like, oh, Mother Yashoda is covered, she forgets Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so she can have the pastime of her mother, but it's the Lord's internal potency. It is very much apparently acting on him as well. It's for him and the devotees. So yeah, I got launched into that this morning. To go deeper, I was familiar, but I just was going deeper into my appreciation.
Thank you, Gajana Prabhu, and for those of you who may not know what Yoga Maya and Maha Maya. So Maya means what is not. Maya, what's not. And it's the force of illusion. And the Lord have two forces of illusion, the Yoga Maya, which is internal potency. And it says his internal potency is Latin, it's like his potency of enjoyment. So he has Yoga Maya and he has Maha Maya, and both are illusion. Both create illusion. And Yoga Maya creates an illusion that brings us closer to Krishna, and that have a potency to bring enjoyment to Krishna. So that's the covering potency that cover us from the awe and reverence that, oh, here is God, and I'm so far away from God. Because as long as that awe and reverence is there, then it's really difficult. Like imagine that Biden, I'm not picking on him, but let's say when he go home, does he have children and grandchildren? No? I don't know anything about him, but let's.
The answer is yes.
Okay, you have children, grandchildren, but let's say he go home and all his children and grandchildren and his wife say, oh, President of the United States, what can I do for you? Oh, President of the United States, like, I really want to, I really want to get some favor from you. Then it will be like terrible, because like, okay, he's at the White House, that's going on. I'm okay with that. That's my expansion as a president of the United States. But when I go home, I want to relax with my wife. I want my wife to fight with me and tell me what a jerk I am. I want my children to enjoy playing with me, or my grandchildren to go on my back and play horsey, like Prabhupada said. He spoke about a judge like that a great judge, like he was in his office and people were waiting for him to make a decision. And then at one point, the person went to open the door and he saw that the judge was an old judge. He had his strong child on his back playing horsey. So yes, so that's what Krishna wants. He wants that enjoyment. He wants us to, he wants his part and parcel, eternal servants when they are purified from the conditioning. And that's not something that needs, like to be prematurely jump into it. However, Krishna is not going to enjoy if we stay in awe and reverence. Like Biden is not going to enjoy his children and his wife and grandchildren and friend if they only see him as a president of the United States. So similarly, Yoga Maya is that internal energy that bring Krishna's joy and that covering the devotees' abilities to see that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's illusion. It puts them in illusion. And then the other side of that is Mahamaya. And Mahamaya puts us in illusion away from Krishna, that we are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that we are the controller, that puts us in illusion that because we desire to enjoy separated from Krishna, it puts us in, Mahamaya puts us in illusion that we can. Even so we cannot. The reality is that we cannot, but Mahamaya constantly covered us. And yesterday I had a conversation with a devotee, and I was expressing how the Mahamaya, she has two functions: one to put us in illusion and to keep us in illusion. And one of the ways she keeps us in illusion, which is the most painful way, is by putting us in illusion that we are not in illusion. And that's really like, we don't even know we are in illusion. And that's the potency of Maya. Why? Because she is also Durga. She's a fortress, she's a protection that nobody enters the spiritual world that have any tinge of material desire, any tinge. To enter the spiritual world, one needs to be completely free. And Maya, she's, also had another conversation with another devotee, a Christian, conversation about Lucifer and Satan. And she was saying, like, she hearing a priest, and she says the priest is describing, most priests describe like Satan being separated from God, and someone who is fighting against God but separated from God. But that priest was describing Satan or Lucifer as an agent of God, an agent working for God. And that's quite, it's quite fascinating, because that's really the view of the Veda, that Lucifer, Satan, or whatever a desire we may have, or whatever is taking us away from God, it's Mahamaya. It's keep up in illusion that we can enjoy separated from Krishna, that we can make a life that's going to be fulfilling. Even so, we suffer all the time. Even so, we have proof that it doesn't work so many times, again and again and again. We're still in illusion, and we don't even know we are in illusion. So that's intense. So so Maya means what's not. So what's not for us is that we are God, and what's not for the liberated soul is God is not God. Hare Krishna.
I just want to say real quick, you said something which connected to one of the purports I just read in Vine quotes, and that is, aside from, like covering the person so they can be an illusion to try to enjoy the material world, but that Yoga Maya, that Mahamaya is a covering potency. Okay, so I'm tying it to what you had said about if there's even just a tinge of impurity, one cannot enter the spirit. So that it's a covering, it covers the Lord's and the devotees' pastimes from the view of sorts of the person.
Like Queen Kunti shared, like with our material eyes, with our material ears, with our material effort, we are not going to be able to view the Lord. And in order to view the Lord, or hear about him and receive, we need to develop spiritual transcendental senses, because with our material senses, like we are like Mahamaya is making sure we don't see. It's like covered. The Lord's intimate pastimes, the Lord's beauty, the Lord's everything is covered from us for our own vision, because we are not qualified to see them. Thank you, Gajana Prabhu. Anything else? Thank you all. There's a chat. I'm not sure what it is, so I'm going to go for it. Hi Krishna. Tyler, Dr. Tyler said, Hi Krishna Prabhu. Hi Krishna. Thank you for this opportunity to hear about the inconceivable absolute reality of Krishna this morning. One seeming contradiction that has disturbed me in my seeking to understand the nature of God is the idea that the supreme or loving controller will allow the suffering of his children. Even further, that Krishna will create a world multiverse where this suffering is a basic rule of existence. Not only that, but he uses it to enjoy, like through the fighting pastime you mentioned. I'm not looking for an explanation, although I am sure that there are plenty of ways to understand that can be cultivated through hearing in faith. Thanks for class, Mother Malini, Hare Krishna to all. Yeah, that's we had a group coaching call on Tuesday evening for the advanced course graduates, and a lot of that coaching group call focused on that, and it was really not even from people who know Krishna or Krishna consciousness, and it's really difficult to understand how Mahamaya is acting in order to bring us back to Godhead, and how it is through sufferings that, like Queen Kuti, she's praying, let those calamity come again and again, because when those calamity comes, we have an opportunity to see you, Krishna. And it's a difficult aspect, and it's the same thing. The Lord revealed himself to us, difficult aspect to understand how come there is so much suffering, how come the conditioned soul in a human, like, it's not all over the universe. In a heavenly planet, there is a lot of enjoyment. However, from the heavenly planet, it's very, very difficult to go back to Godhead. And so the demigods, they get in line to take birth in Kali Yoga, and specifically this Kali Yoga, because Lord Chaitanya's movement, and because their enjoyment is such that it completely confuses them and keeps them in a material consciousness. And they want to come on Earth, because Earth is described like middle range, like there is a hellish planet where it's really like there is so much pain that it's impossible to come to God. And then there is earthly human life where we have an opportunity to come to God through purification through our pain, because like pain is not pain can be in vain, but pain is not blind, in the sense that what comes around,
What goes around comes
what
around.
goes around comes around. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that we have an opportunity to suffer, to not suffer in vain. I believe for me, the most difficult things to witness is not so much suffering. I hold space for suffering, and to witness suffering, it's not something that is the most difficult. For me, the most difficult to witness is when people suffer in vain, like suffer and there is nothing coming out of it. And that feels very, very painful to witness, because there is so much missed opportunity. And I get what you're saying, like you want to hear and you want to continue to hear and come to a place of trusting the Lord, trusting that there is no mistake in the universe, that the Lord doesn't make any mistakes, that everything is complete and perfect as it is, including all the suffering. And I hear for you, Tyler, that it's confusing, it's bewildering, and it's challenging. Hare Krishna.
Well, I forget months ago. He said, what the name would be.
I can't hear dear Govinda.
Okay.
Same here.
Try again.
We're having
Speak.
trouble hearing dear Govinda because he's far away.
Okay, let's see. Let me check the chat.
I'll speak loud.
Also,
Maybe they thought you were speaking when you were silent. That's. You actually.
okay. Can you speak now, dear Govinda?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Stop. Did you hear him?
Yes.
Did you? You
Yes.
did. You
Yes.
did. Yeah. Okay, so that's okay.
I
So
was
you
just,
can come close.
yeah, I was just listening to a lecture from Srila Prabhupada, and he invoked the name of the President of the United States from 50 years ago. It was Nixon, and Prabhupada was saying like that. Related to what Tyler, asked and wrote, it said like Prabhupada said, let's say if Nixon might visit the prison, okay, and like because it's like, and he might spend time with the prisoners. Presidents do that, governors do that, and it's their compassion. It's their compassion,
So much.
and they might not just maybe even they'll like go in the exercise yard, maybe they would go in the cafeteria, they'll develop personal relations like that. So yeah, so it's the idea is like in that analogy, yeah, for the citizens of the country to be happy, then the king, the government, the president, they know that it's all about you follow the laws and you're free, and you can start a business, you can visit your relatives, you can go on vacation and go to the mountains, and you can go to the parks, just follow the laws, and then you have your bliss, you have your happiness. But then at the same time, it's not mercy of the government to like, we're going to force you to follow the laws, then because then you're not honoring free will. So with free will, I mean, some might choose to not follow the laws. So then that, so then you're still going to follow the government system in a department called prison. And there'll be these guards. That's Maya. And just like I appreciate you quoted that Christian minister, Satan's an agent of God. So that's we don't hear that too much in Christianity or Judaism, but it's completely Vedic. That Maya, Durga, Kali, all same names for the same female goddess. She's a pure devotee of Krishna. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. She's a pure devotee of Krishna, and she's an agent of Krishna. She has the task of she's the warden of the prison house. And so just like ideally, the guards, the warden, ideally, they're not there just to like inflict punishment. But at the same time, prison, it's constrained, and you're not free to go to the park today, to visit your relatives today. No, you're constrained. You might be in solitary confinement. You can only go in the exercise yard half an hour a day. Okay, but ideally, the warden and the guards, they really, not just about punishment, but they want the rehabilitation of prisoners. So then you can get out of prison, and then you can really be blissful in life. And so that's kind of free will. We might choose not to follow the laws, and then we violate the laws. We violate people's rights. Okay, then we go to prison because in society outside of prison, there's no healthy place. There's no healthy place for that. So that's where I see like this material world. It's the compassion. It's the compassion of Krishna.
Thank you. So it's so nice to expand on that analogy and to realize that, there's only compassion. There's only love. That love for his children. Love for his children. I remember once I met someone at the spring, and I was just barely recovering from cancer treatment. It was 2 devotees. And I was feeling so high. And I was telling them about the hell I went through. And they asked, well, how do you feel now? I said, I feel so grateful. I feel so loved. And I remember the devotee felt so shocked. So that was my experience. That was my true experience. I was feeling deeply loved and deeply grateful. And you know, it was scary, you know, like, obviously I was looking really damaged by all that. So yeah, like there is only love. There is only perfection of love for his children. And his children, they have chosen to do what they do with their free will. It's like often teenagers, they could be happy home, have food. Like I was speaking with a week ago with someone in Germany. And so she's in pain. She sees her teenage 16-year-old girl, she's in the street doing drugs and enjoying. She's so happy to be in the street. And then they go in downstairs to get food. And then for the mother, she said, well, you could be home and have very nicely cooked meal and clean sheet and a nice room and everything you need. But the teenagers and I just want to live the life I want to live. And then the teenager is really miserable, destroying, like really destroying ourselves, degrading ourselves. And the mother is just very loving. And say, come home. You have the choice to come home. Thank you, dear Govinda, for the prison analogy. Yeah, the food is so disgusting in prison. So intense. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. Go.